It is now my pleasure to introduce Guadalupe Hayes-Mota from Santa Clara University. He's the director of bioethics there and also teaches at MIT on biotechnology, AI, and healthcare operations. So again, a perfect integration of all our themes. He's a globally recognized executive and scholar. He bridges technology, policy, and ethics to advance equitable access to medicines and has a very personal story to share with you as well. He's the founder and former CEO of Hiller Solutions, an AI-driven company that optimized global drug distributions in 43 countries. He's had roles at Biogen, Amgen, and GSK, leading supply chain operations, reaching billions of patients worldwide, and he contributed to implementing the Affordable Care Act as well. He's been appointed by the US Department of Health and Human Services to the NIH Cures Acceleration Network Board and also advises OpenAI on use of AI in healthcare. His research explores generative AI, natural language processing, and deep learning in medicine. He's a contributor to Forbes and Fast Company, has been recognized by Business Insider as one of 6 powerful LGBTQ+ executives to watch, and by Pharma Voice as one of the 100 most inspiring people in life sciences. He's a graduate of MIT and Harvard, holding multiple degrees in chemistry, literature, business, policy, and AI. With that, welcome. Looking forward to your keynote.
Well, thank you. Good morning, colleagues, and thank you for the general introduction, and thank you all for being here. Whether you're in the room here with us here or hearing us virtually, and I'm honored here to stand before you between your distinguished scientists, engineers, quality professionals, regulatory leaders, and industry executives. You have dedicated your careers to one of the most important responsibilities in modern society, ensuring that safe, effective medicines reach patients who depend on them. Today, we're here under the theme, Integrated Science, Regulations, and Digitalization for Global Patient-Centered Care. That theme is not just a conference title to me. It is a deeply personal. It is the reason I chose this path that I did. It is the reason I believe our work in manufacturing and supply chain is among the most ethical and human-centered fields in all of healthcare, even if the world rarely sees it that way. Before I talk about artificial intelligence, digitalization, and the transformation of pharmaceutical supply chains, I want to talk about a story about why I'm standing here today and why what you do matters. As you see here, this is a picture of me in Mexico. When I was 12 years old, my heart started beating in an operating table in the city of Zacatecas, a very small town in Mexico. I had been rushed to our local hospital with severe abdominal pain. My parents knew immediately something was terribly wrong. I was born with a rare form of hemophilia, a blood and clotting disorder where even small injuries can become catastrophic, and internal bleedings can turn life-threatening without warning. My family had learned to live with constant vigilance. We had made long bus trips to see my hematologist, sometimes a journey that took about 8 hours. And sometimes after traveling that much, we would arrive only to find there wasn't Factor VIII, the medicine that I needed. Not because the science did not exist, not because the world didn't know how to treat hemophilia, but because a system that should deliver medicine to people who need it simply did not reach us. That night, my appendix had burst. The rural hospital where I was taken did not have factor VIII. They didn't have an infrastructure to safely operate on a child with severe hemophilia. And I was dying. And the doctor had to make an impossible choice: operate without the medication and hope I survived, or do nothing and let me die from the ruptured appendix. He chose to operate. My heart stopped on that table. For a brief moment, I was gone. The doctors managed to revive me, and I was transported 8 hours to another hospital in a large city, one that actually had factor VIII. I spent 6 months recovering in a hospital bed, 6 months of additional surgeries, 6 months of my parents sitting beside me, exhausted and terrified, wondering if their son would ever come home. When I finally recovered, my parents made the hardest decision of their lives. We immigrated to the United States, leaving behind everything we knew in search of a healthcare system where their child could survive. That broken supply chain nearly killed me. That fragmented system where life-saving medication existed in a world that could not reach a 12-year-old boy when he needed the most is why I'm standing here today. That also informed my foundation of my own personal ethics, my belief that healthcare is not truly healthcare if it doesn't reach people when it needs it the most. But here is the truth. A supply chain failure is not just a logistic problem. A shortage is not just a forecast error. And a quality defect is not just an operational incident. In the real world, these failures translate into delayed treatments, worsening disease, unnecessary suffering, and sometimes death. So when we talk about patient-centered care, we cannot only talk about clinical guidelines and bedside decisions. We must talk about the manufacturing. We must talk about the distribution. We must talk about the reliability. We must talk about the system that decides whether medicine shows up at the exact moment a life depends on it. When I look at the pharmaceutical landscape today, I see something that would seem like science fiction when I was lying in the hospital bed years ago. Artificial intelligence, advanced analytics, and digital manufacturing technologies are changing how we produce and deliver medicines in ways that are faster, smarter, and even more resilient than ever before. This transformation matters because global healthcare has entered a new era. We're treating more chronic diseases. We are producing more complex biologics. We're scaling personalized therapies. We're operating in a world shaped by pandemics, geopolitical instability, climate disruptions, cyber threats, and fragile global dependencies. In that reality, manufacturing and supply chains are no longer the backbone functions. They are the backbone of patients' outcomes. Let me share several examples of what is happening right now that matters within AI in this. In manufacturing, as many as you know, we're building systems that can learn from the past and adapt in real time. AI-embedded yield optimizations can identify subtle patterns in batch performance and help patients improve output without compromising the quality. Digital manufacturing strategies are advancing the transition from paper processes to more connected environments, including electronic health documentation, automated data capture, and integrated decision support. What does this achieve? What this does, it reduces variability and improves predictability. Think about what this means from the patient's perspective. When I was 12 years old, there was no visibility, no real inventory transparency across facilities, no way to anticipate shortages before they became emergencies. Today, we can build those systems that can connect the sites, increase end-to-end visibility, and reduce the probability that patients experience that fears of not getting their medicines. We can also talk about the quality control and how it's shaping. Quality control is one of the greatest ethical responsibilities within the industry because quality failures are never abstract. They're human events. AI increasingly supports inspections and classification. Vision systems and assisted analytics can help detect and interpret anomalies faster with greater consistency. They can reduce false rejects and unnecessary waste. Every falsely reject lot matters because every unnecessary rejection is a product that does not reach the patient. AI does not replace quality management, but it can strengthen the quality function's ability to prevent harm, reduce waste, and protect supply chains in ways that matters deeply at scale. Other parts that affects is a quality assurance. When a deviation occurs, investigations follows. The corrective and preventive actions, or the CAPAs, as we know, are written, so documentation grows, teams work harder to identify root causes, implement fixes, and prevent reoccurrence. Increasingly, AI tools are being used to support the drafting and organization of quality documentation, helping accelerate workflows while keeping quality professionals focused on the work that truly matters: root cause analysis, system analysis, and ethical decision-making. When done well, these tools can reduce deviation closure time, reduce recurrence, and improve how organizations learn from failure. Now talking about the very last part about supply chains, which connects back to my story. The most transformative use of AI in supply chains is not just optimization, it is anticipation. Predictive systems can detect risk patterns early on: supplier instability, demand stocks, capacity constraints, transportation vulnerabilities, temperature risk, and geopolitical disruptions. Instead of waiting until something breaks, teams can mitigate earlier with less chaos and fewer patients' consequences, which is the most important part. In cold chain distribution, predictive analytics can support better planning using weather data, lane history, traffic patterns, and packaging configurations. For patients, cold chain failure is not just a technical issue. It can mean treatment delays or loss of efficacy. It can mean missed doses of care. It can mean the moment matters when the system fails. When I look at these innovations, I don't just see technology. I see a world where fewer children die less because a medicine could not arrive on time. Now, I want to slow down a little bit because I share successes, innovations, and embrace the capabilities that we're doing. But I'm not here today to give you a celebration of AI without honesty. AI can strain pharmaceutical manufacturing and supply chains, but it can also introduce new ethical risk if we deploy them without discipline. So we need to ask the hard questions, such as one, can we prove the systems are accurate enough for GMP environments? In regulatory operations, a working pilot is not enough. We need validation, we need traceability, we need testing under real-world constraints, and we need confidence that these systems behave safely, not only on average, but on edge cases. Another question we might ask ourselves, are we reducing risk or simply moving risk somewhere else? Automation can reduce certain errors while creating new vulnerabilities, including model drift, over-reliance, data gaps, and systematic failures that can cascade faster if they're not regulated. A third question we might start thinking within ethics is who is accountable when AI is involved? If an AI-supported decision contributes to a deviation, a shortage, or a quality failure, responsibility cannot be ambiguous. We must define accountability clearly before harm occurs, not after. Another question we asked ourselves, do we have human oversight and escalation rules that actually work on these systems? Human in the loop is easy to say. It is harder to operationalize. We need clear triggers for review, clear escalation pathways, and empower staff who can challenge AI outputs without fear of bureaucracy. And perhaps the most important question that we ask ourselves within AI ethics and is, are the benefits of AI reaching patients equitably or primarily improving just margins? AI should not become a tool that becomes excellent supply chain in wealthy regions, even more excellent, while vulnerable populations remain trapped in fragile systems. These are not abstract philosophical concerns. They are real dilemmas we confront as we integrate AI into manufacturing and supply chains. So how do we do that responsibly? How do we build powerful systems while keeping humanity at the center? I believe we need a practical, ethical framework, one that speaks the language of quality, regulations, engineering, and patient welfare. Over the past several years, informed by my lived experience in my work in bioethics, I have developed a framework to guide ethical AI in healthcare and biopharmaceutical operations. I call it CARES, because that is what ultimately about caring for patients through systems that work. What CARES stands for is, first, the C stands for clinical accuracy. So we have to see that accuracy is a foundation of trust. If an AI system supports a recommendation that affects quality outcomes, manufacturing decisions, or patient access, accuracy is not optional. It must be demonstrated, validated, and continuously monitored. A model can be statistically impressive and still fail the human system around it if operations cannot interpret it, if quality teams cannot explain it, or if leadership cannot translate it. Clinical accuracy means AI must be traceable and grounded in evidence, with clear confidence levels and transparency limitations. What the A stands for is accessibility and equity. AI must not become a luxury received for the most advanced sites in the richest regions. Ethical AI must function across different levels of infrastructure and capabilities. It must be usable by professionals who are not data scientists. It must be designed for the real world, not only for the ideal lab environment. Equity means asking every time we deploy a system, who is benefiting from the system? Who might be excluded? What populations can be left behind if this solution requires resources they don't have? If AI strengthens supply reliability only in some places, it can unintentionally widen global inequalities, and that might not be patient-centered care. The R stands for responsibility and human oversight. No AI system should make high-stake decisions without accountable human oversight, period. AI can recommend, it can detect, it can forecast, and it can flag risk. But responsible systems must always make clear human review is required. We need governance structures, approval protocols, escalation pathways, and training programs that ensure humans remain the ethical owners of those decisions. We also need humility built into the technology itself. When confidence is low, when edge cases appears, when conditions fall outside the training data, the system must prevent certainty. It must hand control back to humans immediately. Responsibility is not a compliance requirement. It is a foundation of a safety culture. What the E stands for is ethics in data privacy and stewardship. The data that powers pharmaceutical AI systems is extraordinarily sensitive, as many know. Manufacturing parameters, supply chain performance, deviation histories, and quality outcomes are not just business information, they're connected to patient safety. We must protect this data with rigorous security, minimize retention, and strict governance for that. We should be transparent about how the data is used, who can access it, how models can be updated, and how we can audit system behavior over time. Data stewardship should not be treated as a competitive advantage and a moral obligation. And the last is social accountability for the S. AI systems must be accountable to the society it serves. That means independent auditability, it means performance transparency, and it means real engagement with stakeholders, regulators, patients, healthcare providers, and communities. Social accountability is what transforms AI from a corporate tool into a public serving system. It's what makes innovations worth of trust. So where does this leave us after introducing this? It leaves us with extraordinary opportunity with AI, but also with extraordinary responsibility. The systems you're building can prevent what happened to me from happening to others, to have access to medicine. They can reduce shortages, they can strengthen quality, they can build resilience, they can help ensure that medicine reaches a patient who's dependent on it in every region, in every context. But only if we build the systems with intention, only if we built them with ethics, only if we built them for patients, not just performance metrics. So I want to close with a call to action for everyone. I'm calling on each of you, whether you're a data scientist, a manufacturing engineer, a quality leader, a regulatory professional, an operator on the floor, an executive shaping strategy, to be ethical builders of an AI-embedded future. What that means is, one, ask hard questions. Do not celebrate AI successes without integrating it. Ask how it works, ask how it fails, ask how it serves. Be the voice in the room that says how we consider the patient perspective. Two, demand accountability. Define responsibility clearly. Establish governance. Build escalation pathways. Create audit structures. Do not assume a system will behave tomorrow the way it behaved yesterday. Third, prioritize equity. Ask who benefits, who may be excluded. Build systems that strain care across different regions and infrastructure, not only in resource-rich environments. Four, protect data with very seriousness. Treat every parameter and quality signal as a patient's safety depends on it, because it does. It minimizes risk, reduces exposure, audit access, and secure foundations. And fifth, stay humble. AI is very powerful, but it's not infallible. Build cultures where it expects to question AI outputs, not blindly follow them. Preserve human expertise as a core asset, not a backup plan. So you can never forget why you enter this field. You didn't choose pharmaceutical manufacturing and supply chains or regulatory to optimize spreadsheets. You chose it because medicine saves lives, because quality is sacred, And because supply chains are not logistics, they're the infrastructure of survival. I'm alive today because people like you build systems that deliver medicines when it matters the most. Doctors who made impossible decisions, researchers and manufacturers who made factory aid available, systems that work just in time. The AI we're building now is the next chapter in that history to help patients get those medicines. Not just the technology, but protect patients. I died in Mexico because the supply chain broke. The systems you build can ensure that never happens again. So I ask you today to choose to build them ethically. Choose them to build them for patients. Thank you.
So just a reminder, all programming today will be shifted by 30 minutes and the app will be updated. So we do have about 5 minutes for questions. Does anyone have a question for Guadalupe? Dean?
Hello? Hello? Thank you. It's not on. Hello? Good. Sorry. Dean Smith, Health Canada. It's more of a comment. Phenomenal talk. Thank you very much. I was really struck by the line. I'm a regulator in Health Canada, to be clear, and I was very struck by the line that every falsely rejected lot matters in terms of its availability to patients and accessibility. This is a hugely important piece. We had a little discussion yesterday in one of the sessions about specifications, and if they're too tight, we're rejecting lots that are perfectly fit for market, and this is a hugely important. I hadn't thought of it in terms of ethics, but in terms of patient access, it's a great point. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, Guadalupe. This is Pablo Rolandi from Amgen. Really appreciated your talk. My question is on the human-machine performance as a system, as opposed to each one of those components individually. The research points out at the moment that that's a jagged interface, just as artificial intelligence itself is. There are situations where artificial intelligence alone performs best. There are situations in which humans perform best, and there is situations where the combination of both performs best. So from your perspective, what does the research tell us, and what's your perspective on how that's going to evolve in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yes, you bring a great point, which is sometimes AI might perform better than humans. Sometimes humans may perform better than AI. Sometimes a combination of both. I think I go back to the point of humans have to be in that loop and be able to understand when and be discernment and have prudence of figuring out when in those cases one's stronger than the other and when to intervene and where to give more of the AI, which is why it's critical for the human to still have that control and the ability to make those decisions. We're not at a point that we can completely rely on AI because, as you said yourself, there's different circumstances that be more favorable than others. So it's quite critical for the human to be involved in this and analyze this and come with a more approach when you analyze your results. I think when we can move towards kind of relying on AI a little more as we progress, but currently the system does not happen, right? So I do think that critical component of humans being in the loop, being able to look at the recommendations, but the decision making at the end of the day should come to the human because they have to see and validate all the risks and utilize that to make a decision, not just heavily depend on the AI to make that decision at the end of the day.
There are no further questions. Then let's thank Guadalupe again for a fantastic thought-provoking keynote talk.